Hey, class. I wanted to go over the importance of projects in Inventor. There's been a few changes in the software since a lot of my videos were made. And a lot of people have problems grasping this for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's just they don't remember or don't realize. But with Inventor, so far you've been making just part files, single models, and you can move them around, you can copy them, you can rename them in Windows, and it's okay. It's no big deal. But once you create drawings of a part, or you create an assembly of multiple parts, you can no longer use Windows to move, copy, rename, any of those things, because Inventor will get confused. Because Inventor works like a relational database, meaning that it keeps track of where things are located at on your computer. So like I said before, if we just have single parts, it's no big deal because they can be anywhere. They're not related to anything else. But once you create a drawing of a part, the part and the drawing are linked together. And the names and the locations of each of them are critical, because if you move your part file or you rename your part file in Windows, when you open the drawing, it cannot find it because it's looking for its old name or it's looking in its old location. Okay, because you got to remember these things are parametric, and so they are all related together and they all work together. So how we handle this is we create a project and a project folder. You can create the folder in Windows in the File Explorer, or you can create it within Inventor. Either way works okay. But then it really is best if when you start your models, the first time you save your part file, that you name it the correct name instead of just saving it as part 1 or part 2, part 3, or whatever, okay? And the same way with the drawings. You really should name them the correct name the first time you save them. Now, we don't address it so much in this 1105 class, but in 1107 and 1113, we have a file naming system that we use, and all companies will have this. Okay, so you're not going to be creating something from scratch when you go to work somewhere. They will have a system of naming their files based on whatever the project is, whatever the assembly is, or they have a way of naming their files, and you have to follow their system. Well, here at Chatt-Tech, we're going to use the assignment number from the textbook. So in this case, on the screen here, I would have, this is, project 12-7, meaning it's chapter 12, assignment number 7, from the textbook. I don't know what that is in the book. I just picked that number at random. Okay. So our project and project folder would be named 12-7. And then all of the parts within that would be called 12-7-1 for part number 1 and 2 for part number 2. The assembly would be named 12-7. Okay, because part files have a file suffix of IPT, assemblies have a file suffix of IAM, and the drawings all have file suffixes of IDW. Because I want you to use the Inventor drawing file, not the AutoCAD drawing file. Okay, And so we would name them, like this. Now, all of these things get saved into the project folder. And they're all there together. And then when you turn your work into me, or you need to copy it to a different computer, or if you need to upload it to OneDrive, you're going to have to do what's known as a pack and go. Meaning Inventor will find all of the related files. It will package them together into a format that you can then copy it somewhere else, send it to somebody, and they can extract and open up that folder, and they will be able to open the files. Okay, and there's a separate video on how to do the pack and go. So this is an explanation of the project and how the thing works. Now, when you create a project, Inventor creates an IPJ file, and that is, it's an Inventor thing. It doesn't do, you don't do anything to it, but it's where it keeps track of all the stuff. Now, let me bring this over. This is, okay, so it's one of my folders for the Geneva CAM assembly, which you're going to do later in the class. And I got a lot of extra stuff in here. But it's a project folder. And so let me see, how do I want to do this? Let's just do it by file types, back to the way it was. Okay, so what you're going to have when you create this is you're going to have, it's going to create a subfolder called old versions. Inventor does that. And it stores temporary files there. Okay, so this is an assembly file. You can see the icon there. And then these are drawings. You see the icons there. And then these are all part files. It just has a little cube. And this is the IPJ file. Okay, it has that little brown icon there. And then the rest of these are graphics or backups and STL files that I've created. But these are the main things that you're going to have. And what I highly recommend that you do is you can do it by class. I don't have this one particularly organized very well. Let me go to a different course. I'm pretty sure I've got 1113. Okay, so within like the 1113 class here, I've got a folder for weeks based on what's happening that week, okay? And so let's look at week 6, 7. Well, maybe that's not a great example. It's got a lot, I have a lot of stuff in here that you guys are not going to have. But within that folder, it's got my assemblies, my drawings, my part files, my IPJ file. Okay, so I would recommend that you create a folder for your class, 1105. It would be easier to organize if you set them up by weeks and you have folders like week 1, week 2, week 3, like that. And then within each folder, going forward here, once we start with drawings, you're going to create a project file and a project folder. Okay, and I'll walk you through how to do that. So here we are with Inventor. And over here, it should say default. Okay, that's your default project, meaning that it will look anywhere within your My Documents for what it's looking for. If you want to change projects, you hit the little pull down arrow there, and it will have the list of projects that have been opened within Inventor. Okay, now I got a bunch of them because I got a bunch of stuff going. All right, so let's say you want to create a new project. And so you click the 3 buttons there and go to Settings. And then here's the list of all your projects, okay? And you can select them and delete them. You can change which one is the default here, or you can create a new one. So let's go new. We're going to use a single user project, okay, because we're not working off of the network. And here you would give it a name, okay? And the project name is just going to be the name of the project. Okay, so just keeping with my example, I'm going to say 12-7. Now we need a folder to save it in. Okay, and I like I said a while ago, I highly recommend that you create a folder for your class, 1105, and then subfolder week, whatever the week is, because you'll be doing 2 or 3 assignments within that week. I'm going to go with just, it's saying right here, my documents inventor 12-7. Okay, so it will create this for me, or if you want to create one and put it somewhere else, you can do so. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go here. Let's go to 1101. And this is where I put your graded work right here. So I want to make a new folder within this. And I'm going to say week 10. I'm just going to call it week 10. And then OK. And that's where I want my project. I'm going to say I'm going to do that. No, let's make another folder for that. So let's make a new folder under that and call it 12-7. Does that work? It called it new folder. Okay. And then the last screen is just select libraries to load into your project, and we're not dealing with anything electrical. It's the only library in there. So we'll go finish. All right. There's the project it created right there, and it made it to the default project. And so I can go done here. And I'm just gonna make a real quick part and throw in there. And when I go save, it goes to that project folder that we've already set up. And so I'm going to say 12-7-1 and save it. Okay. Now let me create a drawing. I don't want a D size, so let me pull that down. And see, and it's naming it after the part, the model that was inserted in there. So that's what I want to keep it as. So I'm going to save that there. Okay. Now let's look at where we are. Okay, so let's look at that folder that I created. Oh, come on. All right, so there's the folder I created. There's the part file, the drawing file, and the IPJ file. Okay, now I'm not going to go over pack and goes in this video because I got another video on how to do that. The issue is, and this is relatively simple. I'm going to close both of those. Now let me demonstrate to you what happens if you rename this thing using Windows. Okay, so I renamed it Part 1. I'm going to go back to Inventor, and I want to open up my drawing. My drawing is looking for the part file 12-7-1, and it can't find it because it's no longer there. We changed the name of it outside of Inventor. So if I go skip, I get another error message. And it will open it, but you can see it just causes problems. Okay? All right, so, and I'm going to end up deleting this stuff out anyway, but that causes a problem. Okay, another thing, let me show you, let me go back to the default project here. Make that my active, okay, because that just reads the whole D drive. I want to open up, here's one where a student sent me his pack and go, and he had his assembly and some drawings, but he did not include the part files in his pack and go. And so it doesn't matter here, it's looking in the last folder that I was working in, but even if I went to the folder, oh wait, okay, that's fine. That was in week 5. Okay, so here's what he sent me. There was one part file, but it's looking for a file called vidtop. He didn't send it to me. I don't have it, so I have to skip that. It's looking for a file called vidbottom. Well, he didn't send that to me either, so I skipped that. It's looking for some bolts that came from the Content Center. He did not send those to me either, so I have to skip that one. And then I get an error message, and I open the assembly, and the assembly is empty because all of the things that he sent me, that he was supposed to send me, he did not send me. Okay, so if it were just the bolts, the screws that he didn't send, I would get the error message on them, but the parts would still be there. Okay. So let's look at the drawing. Okay, so I'm trying to open up his drawing, and it's looking for, you know, this named here. So let's see how that's going to work. Okay. And the issue is he changed the names of some files. I had to reassociate it. But I've got error messages over here because he didn't include parts in his submission. So it's very important that you watch your file naming, that you watch your when you create your projects and set them up so that things work the way that they're supposed to work on my end. And just to show you one, there it is, man. It's got everything in there. It's got all the parts. The parts are constrained. Everything's cool. There's no error messages over here. And get excited because you're going to do this one before the end of the semester, okay? All right, so if you've got questions on this stuff, come see us in the lab and send me an email. We'll talk about it because it's very important that you understand why projects are important when you start dealing with multiple files in Inventor.